Welcome to episode 498 of the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan Stewart, and today's guest is an extraordinary and very, very inspiring man, Jesse Williams. Now, Jesse Williams grew up here in Brisbane and made his way over to America, played for the University of Alabama, won a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. Not bad, and he has defied so many odds, but this is where his story gets really, really interesting. Not only did he achieve great heights, at just 24 years of age, he was struck down with kidney cancer, and how that story plays out and his resilience and determination to get back on the field is something that you definitely want to listen to and take away. Now, for me personally, when I was sitting there having this conversation with Jesse, his results speak louder than words, right? But the words and the way that he speaks were phenomenal. I was sitting there going, man, I want to take notes. I've listened back to the episode, but I was really motivated and I was really inspired to drop my excuses around why my life wasn't going the way I wanted it to. So for those of you who are wanting to play a bigger game, who want to be the best in whatever area it is that you want to thrive in, this episode is going to be for you. And before we dive into this episode, whatever platform you're listening on, if you could take 30 seconds to leave a rating and review, it's going to help me bring on bigger and bigger guests each week so that we can, have conversations that get your thoughts, that provoke incredible thoughts, and help you become the best version of yourself to maximize your life. Now that's enough for me. I really appreciate you taking that time to rate and review the show. Let's get into today's episode with Jesse Williams. Today's guest, Jesse Williams, mate, thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate it.
As we were saying, let's start the episode here because it's interesting anyway. Jesse was mentioning he's getting a heap of podcast invitations, which why not? He's got an incredible story and so much value to offer. And we went for a catch up 3 weeks ago. We chatted for like 90 minutes to 2 hours. It was awesome. And there's so much that I took away from that conversation, and I'm really excited to get more people to be able to hear the insights of you. But as you're saying, like when people like yourself invest your time in coming on an podcast, for example, there has to be some point of leverage and growth because that's the whole point. And same for me, the first 300 episodes I was sort of developing my communication skills and I was interviewing people, and then it came, I was like, okay, well, let's get some guests and try different things, but I wasn't really doing due diligence in regards to, okay, well, how can this be mutually beneficial for everyone? And now that we've got such a big platform, it's like we get in, especially in the US, like we've got massive listening. We've cracked 30,000 downloads a month, which we're going to 100 soon. I know it's happening. And so then it's like, okay, well, we've got this engaged audience, 83% are male. A lot of blokes are going to absolutely take so much away from your story and insight. So then how can I help you, get your message out there and what you're doing now? And one of the things I loved about when I was listening to your podcast with Mark Boris was you're not the NFL player anymore. That's the past. That was this small moment of your life. You've still got triple that later, double, triple that left. So if you're just defined by that, you're not really doing anything exceptional afterwards, right?
Yeah, I think that was a big thing with me when I was younger. Being a young Indigenous person, like you cling to sport, kind of, sport or art or culture as part of your identity real quick, because it's almost like a little shield you have, right? And then as I got more into it in my career, and that's sort of all I was known for, you try and break free of those shackles pretty quick when you realize I could probably offer a little bit more to the world. But yeah, it is that, when you go through and I don't really monetize my story in any way or anything. It kind of just gets old. You know what I mean? Like you sort of just like it's a good message for sure. And, there's a lot of tangible things where I feel like it can be broken down into some really bite-sized things for people to really use. And then I really have tried to just get on ones that are like quite big. So it's like, they'll get more people instead of me going, let's do every podcast in the world. Because it's not like the story's different. It definitely comes out different every time, depending on how I'm feeling or what I remember, right? But it's after a while, you're just like, man, like, can you just like click this link and you were done? You know what I mean? Recut that. Yeah. It was great. So I really try and pick and choose, and it's more like the subjects and like where it's going is important. Like not just like a huge one. Mark was good because we was really talking about, a lot of tangible things
Yeah.
that, correlatives to business of football and how that works for me. And then, other ones has been like deep dive into myself, and then other ones just like tell us about football, so it's sort of, you get to pick and choose, and I usually just go into it like, give me a little space where you want to move into, and then like I can float into there,
Yeah, and when we caught up originally, I guess where I wanted to dive into you as an individual, and a lot of what made you succeed in one area, because a lot of those skills, and even some of them are skills, and some of them is just your ability to just push through stuff. And I really would love to unpack that, because some people would be able to sit there and go, I don't do that. I sort of would take an easy route there. And look, we'll touch a little bit on football, because when I was told a lot about in our Facebook group, everyone's like, ask about this, ask about that. I'm like, well, you can Google that. Google the things that you can Google, but you can't get time with Jesse to actually unpack his mind and what's made him great, what's made you exceptional, and what you're continuing to build upon. And the fact that you have this mindset that was a chapter in your life, but that doesn't define who you are, and you're creating bigger and better things now, that for me is what is really exciting, because it is very easy, and you see it so frequently where people achieve certain levels of success, and you achieve, well, you won a Super Bowl. It's very easy to just lean on that. And when you talk about obviously not monetizing your story, I think it'll come back to you and what you do in your other endeavors, like being able to spread your message and what you're about now, and how you are impacting the youth, and obviously the Indigenous population. You're a massive leader in that field. The fact that you've achieved what you've achieved, you've now set a new precedent for what's possible, right? Which for me is like, this is fucking awesome, because before you, there was no one to pave the way, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, for football, definitely. I think in my community, having a lot of basketball background, I didn't really like play rugby league besides in high school or AFL or anything. And you sort of, the side of you is definitely with some blinders on, very narrow to kind of what you're exposed to. And then in turn, like what you think you're able to do is just so small. And I remember having that mindset, and whenever I, was able to get over there, get to Alabama, make it to the NFL, do these things, and that stuff really stuck with me, because when I go and speak, whether it's to 1,000 kids with Queensland Police, or a couple hundred kids on a football field, or one kid that approaches me, it was pretty much me in most of those situations. So I take a lot of that pretty seriously, and a lot of that just it's no one helped me at all. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty back against the wall with myself and my family. So it feels unjust to myself to be able to not, offer at least the experience, the anecdotal experience I have of my life. What it feels like, I'm 32. It feels like an extremely long amount of time, but still, so short. But it feels valuable to me enough to be at least to spit a little bit to some people that are still on the come up.
Definitely. What were some of those key moments that shaped your path from being a young fella to then playing in the Super Bowl? What were some of those key moments for you that defined that?
I think a lot of it was around probably just family and sport. Sport being just the breakdown of, my mom was a school teacher, and she was one of the first ones in our family to get a degree and do all that sort of stuff. So like education was always important. And, at the beginning of high school, my dad used to say, how you behave and the actions and choices you make right now will determine what type of man you are. So it was like, all right, this is serious. And for them, it was like, all right, we're either getting straight A's or you play a sport. So I was like, cool, sport sounds amazing. I love sport.
Yeah.
So that was already straight into it. And then I think as a person, I get a lot out of routine, working as a team, putting a lot of effort into stuff more than myself. So I straight to basketball, and like my family played basketball, all the way up to my grandparents, cousins, everyone. So it worked really well. And I think the dynamic with sport and my family, and sort of how I was raised in the standards of a very small, tight-knit family, still cultural, just very respectful, very hardworking, sort of low to middle socioeconomic status, always getting after it. It's all about how we present ourselves, our presence, our work, respecting everyone as soon as you get in the room. seeing everyone doing that sort of stuff. Is those sort of frameworks that sort of kept me, didn't let me deviate too far either way as I was moving through as into an older man. And I think most of the learnings come from sport for me, you know, overcoming and being able to deal with resilience, working hard, working more than I probably think I'm capable of. Team sports obviously helps with that. And I think I was lucky enough just to have, you know, my dad just said to me all the time, like, to be happy, it's easy, you just have to have a good memory. And for me, it was the same with discipline. I just had to have a good memory of all the things that I've already laid down to get to where I was. So it would be silly to give it up right now. I just had to keep going, keep going. And that's all I did, stacking. And like the framework of sports and my family kept me out of like drinking and smoking. Like I didn't drink or smoke. I don't smoke at all, but you know, I drink a little bits of whiskey now, but I didn't drink until I was 31. That was last year. So it was like my whole like schooling, culturally as well. Both my parents smoke and drink casually. My uncles, everyone, I never once, through all my sports, 2 national championships, Super Bowl, that sort of stuff, never. So like that framework kept me disciplined enough to stick to something as simple as that. To me, it seems very simple. And that sort of kept me in line, per se, while I was chasing things that were not simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my thought process behind that was like, and I told you last time we met, was if drinking and smoking pushed me closer to my goals or made me bigger and stronger, I'd be a crackhead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it only took me back. And the Indigenous side and my family and sports, you get to learn firsthand really quick how not to do things. How physical, emotional, substance abuse can unravel people's lives. You learn pretty quickly, not so much in my family, but secondary or cousins or uncles or however. So I learned pretty early on, like, this doesn't seem like an additive to any part of my life. And I never wanted to make mistakes and let my family down, including myself. So it was the easiest decision ever. Like whenever I talk to young kids now, like, oh, what did you do at a party? I didn't go. You know what I mean? Like if we were working out at the party, I would have been there, you know, but we weren't, and I just didn't go, you know, and it's crazy now, and I talk about it quite a bit because people are like, oh, I'm sure this is crazy. Yeah, it was crazy, but like it didn't involve me having to get into it and crazy to sort of mix it up, you know. But it's just little simple things like that that sort of start when I'm 15 years old and ricochet now, double my lifespan to, you know, over 30. It's like, oh man, it still works, you know.
I feel from the experiences I had growing up, you're very unique in that being obviously exposed, most youth are exposed to drinking at some point or drugs or cigarettes, etc. And even when I was pursuing the elite rugby route, I would still, you know, grade 12, because I still wanted to fit in, right? There was part of me that I loved, to this day, I love sport and everything about health and fitness. But there was also an element of me that I wanted to be with the boys. I wanted to be the cool dude. So I did, you know, drop my standards as a result of that. So sitting here, knowing the experiences I had and the drive that I had, and I feel like I'm a very driven person, you are fucking unique to be able to go through those and be like, nah. So how did you become so rock solid on what you wanted to achieve with your life from such a young age?
I don't think any part of it was rock solid at all.
Yeah.
It was like a day-to-day, hour-on-hour, like you second-guess yourself, you get this imposter syndrome, and I think early on, what sports did to me, even all the way back to primary school, me and my brother were both, like, in a non-arrogant way, we were the best at everything as soon as we started doing it. Yep. It was like, we're playing basketball, like, I'm not here to have fun. I'm winning. I need to win. Yeah. Like that stems from my dad, my mom pushing us in what we do. And like, if it was sports day, like if I'm winning, like I'm going home. If I don't win everything, like I'm going home, like I just wasted a whole day. Like, you know what I mean? So that like mindset already set me apart. So like everyone in my primary school knew, like every sports day, like I was going to Med East, I was going to states, I was going to nationals. I went for shot put most of the time. And then same in high school, everyone knew at an early age, once I sort of in that 14, 15-year-old age decided football was the thing. I was already high-level basketball playing representative all the way up to nationals when I was 16, and then once football was it, everyone just knew, okay, Jesse just does football. Like, they would never see me outside of school. They wouldn't even, to the point where no one would even ask me, because it was just like, I don't want to waste time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to see you anyway. And people used to say to me all the time, like, I've never seen you outside of school. And I'm like, yeah, because you don't hang out at my house. You know what I mean? Like, you don't go to the same gym as me. And it made a lot of those interactions easier. I never wanted to fit in, because when I first started to do those things, I accepted that the path I feel like going on right now is lonely, treacherous, and fitting in wasn't part of the characteristics. So all the other stuff, like grade 12, like, we're gonna do that, I was like, nah. Like, I used to literally work out in the morning, go to school kind of late. Like, I would just get like late notes from my mom and just be like the teachers knew I was trying to go to the US.
Yeah.
The principal knew. They just knew, like, hey, Jesse, like, oh, you have to leave early, go to go work out and get ready. I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, everyone knew. It wasn't even like, people weren't like, hey, why don't you, stay and hang out and relax or anything. If anyone said anything close to that, like, you were shunned. Like, I would forget exactly who you were, what you looked like, everything.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't any value to me. And I lost a lot of friends in that middle transition age, even when I was going to junior college, of like, people, like, even when I would come back, first year, like, I was a nobody. I went over there and, I played really well and did all that sort of stuff. But like, when I came back here, like, no one knows what Arizona Western College in Yuma, Arizona is. But to me, I just assumed no one cared, no one did anything. So it kept me in this little pocket of just like, it kind of was a positive and negative. I'm in my own echo chamber, being able to hear those things. For my mental health, probably not I wouldn't say it's the most positive for a young person, but for being able to create like really good outcomes out of the work.
Yeah.
It's proven, you know what I mean? Like, it worked for me.
Yeah.
But I'm very different, and I don't really need confirmation from anybody usually to do anything. And I've never really been in situations where I need to walk in the room and be liked or anything. I'm standing out either way. And the choice for people to interact with me is up to them, never up to me,
Yeah.
And I've sort of just had that little chip on my shoulder the whole time.
What would you say to people who, you mentioned maybe it's not necessarily the best thing for your mental health? Mental health is a massive focus in society at the moment, getting men to open up more, etc. I tend to agree with how you think about things. For me, the more action I'm taking, the happier I feel and the better the outcomes in my life. I've experienced poor mental health, and looking back, I didn't have much going on in my life, and it was very easy to sort of not be happy with where I was at because I wasn't doing anything. So being a bum, really, in my terms. As soon as I started deciding what I wanted from my life and what it was going to take to do that, I was feeling amazing. I still am feeling amazing. So I tend to agree with that approach. For people who maybe disagree, what would your thoughts be around that?
Yeah, I think for myself, like, in that time was like, everyone talks about, it's like this balance. I was like, there is no balance.
Yeah.
Like, there's zero of that. Even to this day, like, my thing is like, be able to plan so well and execute it, but also just have like a tenacity of being able to chase something I want that no one else can match. That was the difference. And around like the mental health stuff, it wasn't like I was sort of taking stuff out. I think my biggest thing was the voices in my head telling me what I wasn't doing, and it had me like, into the schedule of waking up before everyone, and I was just doing more and more and more and more. It seemed like nothing was ever enough, and until I got to where I needed to get to. As a young man, that sounded amazing, and that's all I needed to chase.
Yeah.
I didn't want shortcuts. I didn't want to take the easy route. I didn't want to like hear people's soft excuses of like, man, the amount of people that grew up with me, played football or sports with me, that never made it, then that was the defining factor of them compared to me is a long list. You know what I mean? And when I see a few fall off, like, I was just like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I saw guys go to the US and come back. I was like, come back. I told my family when I left, I said, I don't know when I'm coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't plan a trip back. I barely had enough money to get there. So I was like, coming back was not an option to me. So like, any little bit of like weakness or fun was off the table. You know what I mean? I was waking up and literally I was just training, and not even like smartly. I was like abusing my body because I had no guidance, I had no one helping me. It was just myself, my dad, and my dad didn't know about like training or like the stuff we were doing to get ready to prepare for it. So it was like I was me on dial-up internet at our house trying to search, and all I would do was look up NFL Combine, and I just would, I got to get this fast, I got to get this strong, I got to be able to jump this and do all that stuff. That's all I chased. And I used to like, my dad used to drive to work real early on Richmond Road at Cannon Hill, and I would fill my bag up with the textbooks that I would rarely use, or like bricks on my bag, and he would see me running up and down the hill, like in the dark, driving to work as like a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, and like it just became so normal. Like everyone knew that like I was just, that was it. Like it was only like 2 speeds, and it was like asleep or like full speed ahead. I didn't have anything in between, and that's not for everybody by any means. And that's why I feel like that mental health piece around, like, you know, people now, and people might take that wrong, you know, like I just think people are so soft, not committed, and not ready to pay what it takes to get. It's like going to the shop and someone's $100 and trying to get it for $50. Like it doesn't work. And I just knew that what I wanted cost so much, so I just had to stack that like layers of paint over and over and over and over again until I got there, because I never wanted to be scrounging around for coins to pay. I wanted to go there deserving, worthy, be like, here, keep the change. You know what I mean? And that's the sort of mentality I took trying to get to that. And I still, to this day, like I'm pretty harsh on myself and people, because not in a mean way, I just know what it takes to get to the place a lot of people are trying to go, not so much the NFL, but just like in themselves. And I'm not afraid to tell them directly, because I don't take shortcuts or want to care about people's feelings when it gets hard and stuff like that. And, you know, I try and, you know, this is not like I'm telling 12-year-old kids like you got to run with textbooks in your bag and stuff, but it's, you know, it's being able to win each moment and win the day, and then, you know, so on and so on. I think it starts with those simple things as much as like being willing to buy into something costs $100. I need to, you know, pay that every day over and over and over again until I get there, which seems, man, it's the easiest thing in the world for me.
That for me was like, I'll be replaying that as a motivational speech to get me out of bed in the mornings. For me, what you said there, where you mentioned you didn't even know what you were doing, you were just working hard in the beginning. That to me, I hope a lot of people really take that away. Is it's very easy to get bogged down in trying to have this perfect plan or trying to find the best of everything, that people just have like that analysis by paralysis. They don't do anything.
Oh yeah, I'm still the same. Whether it's business or coaching, football or whatever, relationships, my family, like I don't sit around and wait for things to happen. Like let's just make some mistakes and do it by moving forward. And it's been kind of like that swing, knowing I'm gonna hit something someday, you know. So, and I think a lot of people get lost in that, because it is, you know, I still wake up and train, and like if I don't have that challenge, all that sort of stuff like that, I'm never gonna be an opportunity to take any of the stuff I want to get, let alone see half the opportunities that might come across me. And I think sitting around, and that's what social media and half the people that, you know, put comments and do stuff, right, is like, you know, it's, I don't have the time to, you know, a lot of people say that, and we spoke about it last time, you know, a lot of people have that attitude, like I don't care what people think and stuff like that, which as a young man I was that, but I think as I've developed and gotten older, I really, really care about what people think. I just, in the transition, I just realized you have to care, and it's just important about choosing the right people you care about what they think.
Yeah.
And for me, it used to be like, oh, what this person said, what this, and I would get into it. Like, yeah, I would, you know, I would take it very personally, very quickly, and it can escalate as a volatile young man. But I think now, you know, I don't, if someone comes in and says, hey man, I don't like that shirt, I don't like your business, I'm like, cool. As long as my family, my wife, my son, when I do these things, the right intent is there, and that's what's important to me. And social media means absolutely, it means less than zero to me. I couldn't care less what people say, the media, all that sort of stuff. So it's really important that a lot of people get that that shift of like that motivating factor, and where that my intrinsic motivation is either refueled or put back together a little bit with some of the more important, valuable, extrinsic information or stimulus I get from my family and other people, instead of just everybody all the time. Because my wife would say it, other coaches, people that work with me know that, you know, my superpower is not to be influenced. Like, I literally rarely care about what people say. It will take a lot of wearing down for me to believe ideas and stuff unless you prove to me or have done more than me or better than me or have an expertise. I'll respect it for sure, but if it's just bypassing, you tell me like you're gonna have to speak up because I do not hear nothing. And it works for me. Like, what I've been doing works, and it's enjoyable, and it gets me the things I want to get, and I'll pick up new traits here and there and like new skills, but I'm not here to buy into the current culture, especially of Australia, and what that looks like in business and life, and what we chase after as people.
That's a good point to touch on, man. And I to add to that, like, I feel like you need to, when you're looking at your environment, you nailed it there. Choose the people that you have earned the right to give you their opinion, because everyone can do it. You know, you were playing in front of 110 to 130,000 people week in, week out in footy. Like, that's very few people will ever experience that. And I can imagine, you know, the stuff that would have been happening online during that period. Everyone would have had their opinion based on how you're playing. And
Australian media, their perspective on the NFL is, the gentlest word I can say is skewed. And it's just like some of the stuff, and it is that, like, none of them, media or all that stuff, earned, especially while I was playing, any of the respect enough for me to barely pick up the phone, let alone listen to or read half the junk that was out there. And that's the same now with social media. Like, I have a really good skill of being able to forget things that aren't important to me and moving forward. And that's being able to detach myself emotionally from situations is a skill for me. And it comes in really valuable to a lot of it. I try not to stick to a lot of things, especially negative or things that are take. I prefer a give situation, not a give-take situation. So it's that sort of helped me along the way, especially with social media and doing that. Like, people can come and do whatever. Like, I can delete it literally and in my head and never see it again. You know what I mean? But I have to see my son, my wife, and my family every day. You know, and that's the sort of stuff that's important to me.
How did you, mentioning it's a skill to detach from other people's opinions. Many people are run by other people's opinions. It's the reason why they don't take risks. It's the reason why they don't pursue the life that they want. It's the reason why maybe they don't surround themselves with the people that they want to surround themselves with. How do you, or what, if someone was asking you, how do you detach, what would that look like?
I think, early on, especially going through sport and like rising up in ranks, popularity, you sort of get a hint of it, and you learn really quick that the people that are around you, helping or taking away, don't care. When you're not in front of them, they rarely care about you at all. You know what I mean? Like, even now, people care about being in the gym. I've seen people get hurt in the gym and 20 people around that don't even notice. And people are worried about what they wear to the gym. Like, people are in their own world. No one cares. It's getting worse and worse how little people care about even interacting or seeing other people. And I just took that on early on. I was like, no one helped me. No one is caring about me right now except my family. I was like, okay, well, let's keep that the whole way. Because the same people that weren't helping, the same people that want to get photos of me when we do these camps or when we're doing stuff. And I just had that stubborn young man attitude, which I still have. It works well for me. Of like, okay, you don't want to help now? That's cool. I get it. You don't care. But now I obviously pre-take in what that looks like, because I know people like seldom care about what other people's issues are, problems, anything. So like, I don't need to worry about someone that's not caring about me. Let's focus on the people that want to add to the situation, want to care, and that are here. And I think people buy into a lot of stuff, and I think it only takes a small slither of someone then to be like, okay, that person doesn't care. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit of weight lifted off your chest. I haven't found many people in life that really want to just hang on and actually care.
Yeah.
There's a lot that just want to hang on to either get something or take something. So it's always been easy for me to be able to do that and detach.
It's interesting when you talk about that. Like, I'm thinking about, I meet so many, like yourself, so many incredible people that I can learn so much from. And even from the podcast, I'd love more people to be able to just sit in a room and listen to this, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful things, because people who have what most people are striving towards can now just tell you what that experience is like. Because when you can sort of start to understand experiences, it gives you an insight to, do I really want that, or maybe that isn't for me. But as a result of that, it does become, I don't want to say transactional to a degree, because there's so many moving parts. And it's something I think about a lot, because I'm like, I want to continue building relationships with a lot of people. But time, once again, comes back to, you're either investing time or money. They're the two commodities you have. Time's obviously more important than money, because you can always make more money and get time back. We're all aware of that. So it's something that I still don't have an answer to there, but I try to make every interaction that I have with people that I respect and that I value as genuine, because it is, I want to learn from everyone, as genuine as possible, and try to come across in a way where I'm not making people feel used, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me it was always really tried to align my intent to what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like whether I go into like when I go into things, a relationship or meeting someone, whether it's for sports or business, like I got to go into there with like, this is what we are trying to achieve here. Not what I get. There's very rarely relationships or interactions I go into like, I'm going to get something from this. It's more they need something from me. Like how am I getting that out? And once I sort of that notch from retiring from this like receiving role of confirmation, attention, money, everyone, whatever, into more of a serving role, it made a lot of those interactions easier for me, because now I can really narrow my intent. Before it was like kind of weary. I'm already getting everything I need. What does this person need? So there's a lot of sort of hoops I got to jump through to figure out what that is. Now it's like I have a serving role. I don't need anything from anybody. What can I help with? How can I add value to that? So I had to shift that. And then for myself, it was once I narrowed that down, it sort of put me in better rooms. And then when it comes to time and all the stuff around what's important to me, I had to start being more selfish. Because when you come from a receiving role, you feel inclined to spend time and these people are paying, or it's this, you got to do it. Now when I don't really need anything from anybody, I'm independently floating around, looking after my family, doing those things. I can be selfish, because people want to say, back to the start of the podcast, when I have 100 people in my DMs right now saying, hey, can you do this football podcast? Hey, can you do this podcast? I can do that. I can be selfish and not reply to anybody. But previously, like on my build up, there's usefulness in some of those interactions, because I need to receive something and do that. Right now, I'm sheltered off. I'm a ghost. I float around. You barely see me. And so I can be selfish with my time, because what's important, my intent, I get to add value to my family and all these things now. But then when I interact with people at these camps and football stuff that we do, my intent is very authentic, is everything is on the table. I'm very truthful about everything. My integrity and what I say is important to me. I'm getting it out there in the right way, not selling the dream, but selling a realistic picture of what it looks like. So those two things sort of help me narrow down when I go into things like, okay, if this is not good, whether it's a business deal or some collaboration or some football thing, I have to really be like, I have to be selfish, because if I'm away for X amount of time, like what does my family get out of me being gone compared to what you're getting out of everything I'm adding to this? And people don't always understand, because it's not money. Like when I go to things, people are like, oh, we can this much and it's this much of your time. I'm like, it's not about that. I'm like, what is the value? What is the imprint of this for? I tell my wife and my son or other people in my family, oh, I'm not going to be here for a week. Like that's a long time. A lot can change in a week compared to doing some work stuff or whatever. So I've been really strutting that line a little bit lately, and really trying to be selfish and stay really intentful of how it is. Now that I've narrowed my intent as a man to like what's important to me, not what's important in general. There's a huge difference, like there's a lot of things my brain and young man that's left into me that want, but those things aren't important. My family is important, the development of that, the growth of that, and the love and care that comes from that's reciprocated both ways, and not having a different car or going to an event or like being at an NFL event or making X amount of money has no intrinsic value to me at all. So it's being able to separate those things now, like it's kind of together, and a constantly adapting situations to fine tune those to really figure out what I can put my time into. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of things out there that can be beneficial and can take away, and it's just a roll the dice every day. But as long as I got myself sorted, I'm very confident when I walk into every room, because I really don't need to get a lot from anybody. It's more just like, what value can I add here? If I can't, then man, just get a cut out of me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find a picture where I look handsome and then cut that out, right? You know, but if I can be of value, then let me shake the room down.
Yeah.
And that's what people let me do, because people know that's how I am. Like, if you want to come in here, when I go to schools and they want me to talk to 10 of the indigenous kids, I'm like, fuck that, man. I'm like, get the whole school down here. Like, let's not waste our time. Like, let me like get this to everybody. Like, this is not an indigenous issue. This is not a low socioeconomic issue. This is not a mental health issue. It's not a men's issue. These are just skill sets that will help with everyone's everything. You know what I mean? It all correlates.
I love that you put everything together, because it is there's a lot of stuff going on in the world at the moment where you need to pick a side, and we're trying to divide everything.
Yeah, I hate it. You know, my favorite thing is like not buying into the hype.
Mm-hmm.
Me being on the other side of a lot of hype I've seen is rarely true. I don't believe the media. Very rarely anything truthful comes out that's educational enough for me to take in. And I think the rest, for myself being close, and my wife working in Indigenous media, my mom works in Indigenous child safety for the government, us doing a lot of stuff around it, and for a long period of my life has been in those circles. As a young, absolutely nobody, young Indigenous man from the south side of Brisbane, I got pretty good scope on what life looks like with pretty good range. And a lot of it is just, I don't have time to pick sides. I don't care about politics. It seems like both sides, a lot of people aren't getting a lot of stuff anyway. So like, I just prefer to, like, even with my family's foundation, the First Step Foundation around football, I'm not here to save the world. I'm here to save the world around me and what I can reach right now. You know what I mean? And that's, the foundation was set up not to cure cancer or malaria or hunger. It was here to change young men's lives with football. It's like a small slither. I don't have time to buy into Indigenous kids, African kids, like disadvantaged, non-Indigenous kids. I don't have time to sort through that. They all need the same stuff.
Yeah.
I got all the stuff, so let me do that. You know what I mean? And that's how I've taken everything, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, sports, mental health, all this stuff is going on with everything. It's just a huge waste of time, distracting everybody from just helping people. And I just never bought into it because it's just a waste. They want to talk to people like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think about Indigenous topics? What do you think about the work I've done with Queensland Police, all this stuff? I don't think about it at all. I think about the kids that are in front of me when I get to the event. Mm-hmm. I think about the kids that I spend time with that in 2 years come back and see me again and remind me that the 5 minutes I spent with them at this event 2 years. That has nothing to do with it. I don't care where the kid comes from or what sort of sexual orientation or ethnicity. I don't care. I said, if you're here trying to do this, then cool. Yeah. I'm the person here to help, you know? And that's what's really helped a lot of it. Like, I can't buy into the hype of like people's stuff. Like, it's just, it's so wasteful of time, you know? And it's like, my biggest thing is like the efficacy of like where my time is spent, especially the community work, because I hate just going to places and like, let's take some photos in front of kids. That doesn't get anything done. Yeah. Like, I've seen firsthand, like, I hate it. Indigenous, non-Indigenous sports groups come in and like, hey, just talk to kids for 10 minutes. Okay, and like take a photo. Like, what the hell does that do? I was a kid that was sitting there, I'm like, who's this guy? He's here for 10 minutes. Like, what did he get across? So I really put time into like even the camps we do for football. Like, I'm there for 4 hours after the camp. I talk to every kid for like as many questions they feel like getting out before they start feeling uncomfortable. Yeah. And same with their parents. And I think I try and do that everywhere I go. And it's just like, that's for community work and work in general, that sort of stuff like that, because I know what having a short amount of time left on earth looks like. And I don't feel like wasting it on some people's junk, and opinions to me is a lot of people's junk.
How you spoke about that is I think it's very important to think about. we get the Man That Can project. We get hit up to do all the charity events from from prostate cancer to mental health to we got hit up with a lipstick one. That like there's constantly people asking, and I can appreciate that, but not everyone's fight is my fight, and I really related to what you were saying there. We only have so much time, and part of that time is looking after our own health and families. The other part is work, and then we do have a little bit of time to give back.
Yeah.
But we can't give back to everything.
Can't pour anything out of an empty bucket.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it you see with a lot of these groups, and you would see it in mental health. I saw it in, someone who had pretty serious cancer. I saw it in a lot of cancer groups, and heavily in Indigenous groups, there is 150,000 groups all doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All taking 0.01% of the funding to do the exact, slightly variation of the exact same thing. When like if a smart person would say, hey, why doesn't everyone just work together and
collectively
do the one thing? Everyone would get a huge amount of funding and have a much more effectiveness. But then that's when people are, they cling to their own egos and a lot of that sort of stuff, especially in helping people, right? So I definitely get seeing other groups, and it's just like, it's no competition in helping who can help the most people. Yeah. I want to help my people first, myself, my family, and then like all the rest of the stuff in time, then we can go from there. But I do see a lot of there's so much crossover of like, even in business, I'm just like, there's too much ego around like what you're trying to achieve here. If everyone just worked together, like it's a lot easier.
Yep.
Not because I'm a team sport guy, just because I feel like I'm a common sense guy, and a lot of that just doesn't seem like common sense.
I agree, Matt. I respect your opinions there, definitely. You just touched on that. Obviously, you have also, you've experienced a lot in 32 years. You had a lot of adversity during your football career as well, and you mentioned you also know what it feels like to, potentially not have much life left. Can we go back to that point, what it was like facing that adversity and what you were thinking through those moments, maybe the support that you lent on and how you've, grown through that?
Yeah, I think like before football, like adversity was a common thing, just like in the household and sport, losses, wins, they all come. I think if I look at my life from 0 to now, there's definitely good range. And by good range, I mean the difference between real high and real low. There's a lot in between there. And I think, around the injuries and stuff in football, especially like having kidney cancer, and sort of part of the reason I retired is that was probably the biggest one on the outside to people. For myself, I don't always like to talk about sort of how it affected me, because I don't want to be sort of not aware how other people have handled certain situations. I can only talk from how I sort of thought about it. And for me, I had, stage 3/4 kidney cancer. It was quite serious, quite quick, and I had to get my kidney removed in like 3 days after finding it out. And I kind of just treated it like I had the flu. Like I didn't believe it. Like I had no pain. Like I was in like the peak shape of my life. I wasn't scared of anything. I was glad it was me, because if it was like my family, my mom, or I would be shook. I knew it was me because I was a bad man. Like I could have handled anything that was thrown at me. I could have got hit by a car. I would have been playing next week, And that's how I just took it. It was like, as soon as I found out that my parents, everyone flew over and thought I was going to die, which is pretty common. And I just was like, nah. I was like, when can I play? What's the return look like?
Yeah.
And they're like a year, and I was like, nah, that's not gonna work. I was like, the preseason 7 weeks, 5 days after my surgery, and I need to get back to that. And honestly, the things that got me through it was myself. I didn't have a lot of people around me that, I had the team and the Seahawks, stuff like that, but it's a very sensitive topic. They don't really throw a lot at it because they don't know how everything's going to go. It's hard for a professional team to throw a lot of stuff at it. Even though they helped amazingly, it was more just like personally, I didn't really have a lot of people. My dad was here. My family flew back. It was just myself and my dad and my place in Seattle. And I just went back to what got me there. It was all those skill sets. It was like, if I can outwork half these other things and out rehab, getting, breaking stuff, tearing stuff, the mental ups and downs, I was like, this is fine. So like I set myself a timeline of 7 weeks, 5 days. I remember sitting in the surgery, getting out, I was supposed to be in there for like 4 or 5 days. As soon as I got out, I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. And they said, well, you have to take the catheter out, which is the worst part of having any surgery.
Yeah.
And then they took that out, and you had to walk around the ward twice. So I did that before my family even got back the next day, because I had the surgery at night.
Yeah.
So my family got back, they got flowers and balloons and shit, and they were like expecting, I had meals packed, like I was gonna be there for 5 days, and I was laying in my clothes on top of the sheets, like waiting. I was like, oh, we're here, we're ready to go. Yeah, I was like, I can't, like I was out of surgery like 4 or 5 hours, and I was like freaking out. I was like, this place, I've lost a lot of people, I've been in a lot of hospitals, so I was like, nah, I'm like, I can see the sun out there. I was like, we need to figure out, like, I'm fine. And I wasn't fine at all. You know, I could, like, they cut through, I had 12 cuts in my stomach. I was just lucky my upper body and my, like, legs were strong, because I had no core at all. So I was like, old boy from Family Guy in a wheelchair. I was walking myself around with my hands, and managed to get out of there. And I went back to Seattle the day after surgery, and everyone was scared. They were like, what are you doing here? I was like, don't you have surgery? And I was like, yeah, I had it yesterday. And everyone was losing their mind. You know, I'm bleeding out all these holes. I got patches, and like my stomach is just black from bruising, having a surgery like 16 hours ago. And I think I drove my truck from the hospital with my parents in it, because I didn't want my parents to drive. So then, yeah, it was just like, I didn't out-tough it at all. I just didn't care about it enough. I was like, oh, okay, like I just treated every little thing like it was just that little thing. Like, oh, I got these cuts, I got to heal the cuts. And then as soon as I healed the cuts, they let me walk around the field during practice. And I used to like speed up and like try and jog a little bit, and I'd get in trouble, start walking again, and then try and speed up, and I'd get in trouble, and I was walking in. So I went through that for a few weeks. As soon as they let me in the weight room, I was lifting weights again. I was starting to feel myself. As soon as they gave me a date, if my scars heal before this date, I can start practicing. So then I was out there doing drills. I was out there doing all this. And this is in like 4 or 5 weeks of having my kidney removed. So like, people are like treating me like I'm dead and I'm a ghost, Casper, a friendly ghost floating around with helmets and shoulder pads on. And I hated it. I was like, stop going soft on me. Like I was hitting dudes. Like I was like, I'm not here. I'm not here to fuck around. You know what I mean? Like this is me. And then, you know, when I could get back in there full speed, I was just like, I missed it so bad. I still have so much. I joke around when I tell guys of football, but I still got a lot of demons inside I got to get out. You know, football was the expression of that. And, you know, going through all that rehab was hard. It was a very lonely journey of sitting there with athletic trainers and physios and doctors and surgeons every day, like assessing. And then, you know, 7 weeks, 5 days later, here comes Jesse running out the tunnel in San Diego. I played all the preseason games. You know what I mean? So it's like, what really is in part of that is not about cancer, it's about me just doing what I believe is capable in this amount of time, and just doing it. I didn't have excuses of like, oh, today I feel sore, I'm gonna rest. I'm like, rest? I'm like, how does that fit into this? It doesn't fit in. You know, and I played the 4 preseason games, and I split all my stitches, every single one, so my scars were really big. I've tattooed over them now, I forget, I don't even want to see them. And I sort of put my body in a pretty bad situation recovery-wise to continue playing the rest of the season, but that goal of getting from kidney removed, catheter out, running out of the stadium, and being able to play all those games, maybe not 100%, and that was half the reason we sort of pulled the pin. But I was there, did everything, no excuses, like keeping up with everybody else. You wouldn't know if they said point out the guy that had his kidney removed 7 weeks ago, there's no chance they're finding me. You know what I mean? And so it's that stuff that sticks with me, and that's important to me, that has the foundation of how I am now, and the work that I put in, and the work that I can, with conviction, tell people that I've been able to do and achieve is shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, Super Bowls are cool, like having a Super Bowl ring and doing all those things, but none of that shit is important to me. What's important to me are like the bricks that I laid down to build the person I am right now, because it cost me way more. You know what I mean? And no one's ever going to see that or understand how many times I would just sit and like, I've gone through surgery after surgery, which is fine. I'm happy to do that. That's part of playing professional sport. But like you just sit in the dark, you're sitting in steam rooms, cold tubs by yourself, crying to yourself, trying to recover faster, trying to sleep more, trying to eat better, all those things. People just see the rings, they just see the pictures, they just see covers of magazines, they just see all that sort of stuff, and that's fine, because the stuff that's important to me is all the stuff that I got to do that no one else will ever get to experience. And I guess just the tough part now is just expressing that to people in bite-sized pieces, like when they see me or like in podcasts and stuff or whatever. And I'm trying to write a book. Whenever I get that, I've started already. I'll get that done hopefully when I piece together enough time to write it and do all that sort of stuff. But it is little things like that where the adversity it's a constant. So you sort of just get used to it, and just the severity of it doesn't really click. You know what I mean? Like some people usually kick their toe and it's the end of the world.
Yep.
I had cancer and I was like, cool, like what's next? Like I was more worried about like if they were gonna make me wear a pad on my side. I was like, I'm not gonna look like myself with this fucking pad. I'm like, I need to get back so they don't let me wear this pad. And I had to wear it to practice a few times, and I would just pretend and just like throw that shit on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, and just keep going. So it's perspective. And I was just lucky enough that when I was a young man, I got to go through a lot to develop my inside and who I am, what I believe in, and what I believe in myself. So in situations like that, I was unshakable. My person inside, my belief and my strength was so deep in the earth, like I could not be moved. The storm, the waves, the adversity, nothing could shake me. You know what I mean? Like I was untouchable at that time. And that's just the attitude I got to take into things, whether it's going to go good or not. I could have died. There was plenty of things that could have went wrong, but I choose to focus on the things I can control. The things I can't control and dying, man, I could die this afternoon. I don't need to waste any time thinking about it though. You know what I mean? I just want to focus on the things I can control.
You talked a lot about focus and choosing how you want to see things and what you want to do, and it's also those habits that you've spoken about from a young age, the packing your bag with books and challenging yourself, getting up early, saying no to partying, doing all these things was you building your character. And I'm a massive believer that you've said it as well, that sport or even just physical exercise can prepare you for adversity that's out of your control. Choosing to, that's all a choice. All the stuff that you've done is a choice. Playing football, getting up early, sacrifice is a choice. And because you did that, you'd flex that muscle enough that when you were faced with adversity that was out of your control, the cancer or the knee injuries, you knew how to handle it. And a lot of people, and I thought about this because I did say it to you when we first spoke, I'm sitting there going, I can't fathom how you think the way that you think, having heard what you have gone through, but I've thought about it a lot, and I'm like, well, there's no wonder you think the way you do and you act the way you do based off all the stuff that you've done in the build up to that. And that for me is character. And it's one of the most important things. It's one thing that we talk about in our academy all the time, is like building resilience, like putting in the reps to be prepared for shit that's out of your control.
Yeah, man, the reps are not nice. Like I tell a lot of these kids, and like especially parents, like they got, a little chubby kid that's like 6'3", and these parents like, I want him to play football and sort of stuff like that. And they see me now, like I'm 160 kilos now, that's living a normal life, like still training, still strong, all that sort of stuff. And I was that kid. Like people see me now and I'm like, it didn't start like that at all. Like you ask my parents, like it was hard, it's hard. But giving in to every time it's hard, it's like starting at a new level, it's unplugging it. It's like, I try to explain to some of these kids, they wouldn't know because everything's saved now online, but like PlayStation and stuff used to have a plug-in save card, you know what I mean? Like, so you would play a whole game, and if you didn't have a memory card, which like we didn't have half the time, you turn it off, you turn it back on, it starts again from the start of the game. So like, for me, it was just like every time someone quit, like this is hard, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna change teams. Okay, so you literally are just sacrificing all this game you just played to get through everywhere, and you're starting a whole new game, start from fresh. And for me, like, I try and show those kids, like, that's why I say there's really good range there, because all these kids and people that see me only focus on all these highs. I was like, that's not the cool stuff. I was like, look at this. Like, my parents showed photos when I first started playing football. I was just like this young, shy, chubby kid. I just had a lot of anger inside me that I was able to get out, but I wasn't strong. I wasn't big. I wasn't the fastest. Like even all the way up to playing in Alabama, I speak about it on a lot of media things. Like I was nowhere near the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I had the least amount of football experience. But one thing that couldn't be matched was how much I wanted it and how much I was willing to sacrifice. And not just once, not just in the national championship, which I played in 1-2, not just when it's easy, when it's hard every day, when it's not at game day, it's running in the summer in 125-degree heat in the state of Alabama. It's running up hills in the morning out here in Morningside. It's doing all those things over and over and over again. And like you said, for me, it was like layers of paint. You don't notice. You paint a room 3 times, like it probably doesn't affect the size. You paint it 300,000 times over and over again, it's going to start getting smaller. The room's getting smaller. That's all it was for me. I started as this little scared, insecure kid that had, not a lot of role models, not a lot of guidance, no direction. If you asked me in grade 11 or 10 what I was going to do, I would have said, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like to where I got, I think that's where the work is at.
Yeah.
And that's where my skill set, and that's where I feel like a lot of people that understand like life, and especially older people, when I get to speak, they respect that more than having a Super Bowl ring. Or I got a box of rings at the house, there's a piece of metal. You know what I mean? Like I had the memories that will stick with me forever, and a lot of people have stories and folk tales of me doing crazy stuff when I was as a young kid, especially playing football, and that stuff's more important. You know what I mean?
I think it's a very good point. Like when you talk about the ring, and for those who are watching on YouTube, it's a monster. But the ring in itself, for me, I've never understood why people like getting autographs or photos with famous people. Like, I couldn't give a shit, because the way I've always seen it, I remember when I first fucked up with footy and I was back in Toowoomba before I went over to France, and I was watching, like I didn't want to watch footy on TV anymore because I'm like, these guys are living the dream that I want to live. How is getting a photo with them, how is, watching them gonna help me improve what I wanted? It's like, I need to go kick the fucking footy, I need to pass the footy, I need to get stronger.
Yeah.
And I still take that to this day, like, nice ring, but for me it doesn't give me any meaning. What I'm fucking loving is what's in your brain and the experiences that you've had, because now I'm like, if I want to get to the level that Jesse's at in, skills are transferable, business, football, all that sort of stuff. I want to understand how your mind thinks, and your stubbornness in regards to knowing what you want and not being prepared to compromise on that is phenomenal. And some people may think they need balance or whatever, but it's like, if you want to be the cream of the crop and really create a life that you're proud of, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I tell a lot of people, like a lot of it, like especially the work balance thing. Like there's a little bit of a bit more effort now in it, because a lot of stuff I do is probably more around my house and stuff like that now. Yeah. But when people was like, oh, there's no balance, you missed out on so much, I was like, all right, let's stack our lives together in those years. Let's stack them together and see what we achieve. Because it's like not only a perspective thing, but also like, these are things I wanted, let's go and see the things you wanted and the effort you put into that. It's not about chasing this, stuff like this. The top of anything it's like a facade, it's a trap. You get up there and it's just like a movie, you push through it and it's just like fucking mist. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, they're like, what does it mean it means nothing. It was just another game. When I was at Alabama, we won a national championship. I was on a plane that night, we're flying back, and we started our workouts, not for that game, for the next year. I was like, I took one thing that sticks with me, and hopefully, I pray it sticks with me for the rest of my life. Coach Nick Saban, one of the best coaches ever coached football, was with me for years at Alabama. His thing on the 24-hour rule was like the epitome of what I believe in. It was 24 hours, win or lose, we're back to work. We don't sit around and worry about it. Like, we're the best team in the country. Sit around and worry about a loss or a win when we have to win next week. Every game is important. And this is like people like going through their days. Like I tell when I had cancer, I went into surgery like it was a game day, dressed like it was a game day. I had headphones in. I told my parents and stuff the day before, I was like, don't talk to me. I'm going to treat it like a game. I'm going in there to do what I need to do. And it was 24 hours after that. I didn't need to think about it no more. I just need to think about what right now is, who I need to move forward. And I think a lot of that around what people are chasing and their ideologies of their success and like what the end game looks like. And man, I don't like to burst people's bubble, but there's more, you know what I mean? Like, I chased it so hard, I sacrificed everything I possibly could, and it was taken from me straight away with nothing. And like now I feel like I'm like side missions, or I have to start my life again. And it's like, I got to refine that again. So it's like, I'm grateful for the opportunity to start from ground zero and like, let's chase what else. Like, I might be able to fit 2 or 3 lives in the amount of time I might get, or I might go tomorrow. But I'm going to use this time like it's worth a lot. And I think a lot of people they get disappointed, especially athletes, when they get there and success, the top, being the best. I don't think it's for everybody. You know what I mean? I think chasing what you want, being selfish, and being effective in your life with your family and loved ones and your goals and who you are as a person, your character. I think those things are more important than having a Super Bowl ring. You know what I mean? Like, well, this just sits in my sock drawer, you know what I mean? Well, it's in a safe, but it's
yeah, everyone's like, hey, sock drawer.
It's in a gun safe, so be careful when you come around. You know, so it's that mentality now, and like, you know, it's awesome to have a young man's mind, but like, I want to be the strongest, richest, handsomest, you know, most friends, whatever. But you know, for me, being through and seeing a lot, and had to deal with a lot, I think for me now is, yeah, success is relative, and success is different for me every day and what I feel like I can achieve that day. And I know I'm probably over 300,000 layers of paint right now, but I'm just trying to stack it and see what the hell happens.
It's a great way of looking at it. So what is that, you know, you say success is, you know, day by day, but what are you striving towards? Like, you're doing stuff in coaching the youth, you obviously still big in the NFL. Like, what's the next 5 years look like for you?
Man, I think it was really hard coming back to Australia, like adjusting to people and the culture, and like I don't really enjoy it here at all. And I think a lot of the people are always like, oh, why Australia's the greatest place ever. I was like, it's probably the most toxic place as well in regards to like people and how they treat other people, and it's perspective on others for sure. But I think for myself now, it's the same goal, just disguised as something different. My goal when I was leaving to go to the US was, you know, I wanted to come back like a good man. I wanted to have like my integrity and all these things. Making money and doing those things is never important to me. It kind of annoyed me more in trying to chase that stuff. For me, it was like always trying to be a good man, and that's like, you know, strong handshake, good eye contact, does what he says, believes in himself, looks after his family, and does all those things for his community. And that's all I've been doing. And that takes different forms. For me right now, like previously, me and my wife were doing a lot of indigenous stuff. I was lucky enough to go up north, Palm Islands, all these different places. And I think, you know, we still work a little bit in that, but it's shifted a lot to football now with the growth of football and my effectiveness in the space to help young men sort of make their journey to the US, which I push heavily as life-changing in regards to getting a college education, not just making money. And so we do a lot with that, working closely with local Gridiron Australia, the national body, trying to grow the sport and stress the importance of not only the opportunity to go into the US, but the tangible skills it takes to not only go there, but make a difference and be successful. And that's sort of a lot of the stuff I spit out a lot, you know, around the hard work, discipline, integrity, and building yourself before we go over there, and people shitting the bed, still a lot of that.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of my effort is going at the moment. I'm really interested in having that really set up for kids, because I just believe that's a life-changing opportunity. Rugby league, rugby union, all that sort of stuff it's not really set up for success pre, during, or after, unless you're like the top 5 player per year. Where going to the US, whether it's basketball, track and field, football, cross country, swimming, whatever, your kid can go over there, if you're good enough, get a scholarship for free $300,000, $400,000 scholarship at a big university to play sport. That's no HECS debt. That's no nothing. In the land of the home of the free, it's opportunity everywhere. People want to help. Like, sports is huge. Business is huge. And I just think it's silly that more kids don't go over there. People out here want to work to be a Brisbane Bronco. I'd be more working to try and get over there and get to a small college, because there'd be more opportunity going to a small college than playing for the Broncos here.
Yeah, it's a good point, man. And it's we're obviously looking at that. We've experienced that as well, and those cultural things. I've never, not until our recent trip in Nashville, where I've experienced how supportive and how excited people are to be a part of your success. It's really unique, and something that I definitely want to surround myself more with. We've got 3 minutes, but there was a question. People were posting questions, and this was the most upvoted question in the group, and we've sort of touched on it. And the question was, how did you prepare yourself mentally for high stakes games like the Super Bowl? Like when you've got, I don't even know what the viewership of the Super Bowl is, but
it's in the millions. Like even like college national championships, like it's the biggest sporting event in the world at the time, you know. And I think there was never high stakes games. There was just games, and every game was the same. The same way I went to practice, the same way I walked in the weight room, the same way I walked in the classroom. Especially from being at Alabama was where I probably fine-tuned myself in that degree, being able to switch on and off. The off part's the hardest, but being able to switch on to get things done, it never changed. We never did anything different, never did anything. If anything, we worked extremely hard to keep everything the same. Like we ate the same thing before every game. Doesn't matter where we were. We had the same chefs. We had the same flight attendants at every game. We take chartered flights. It's the same snacks. You sit in the same seats. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Routine is the difference maker. It's repetitions of everything, mental and physical. And it was not like people got more hype for national championship. It's the exact opposite. We trusted in how good we are at just playing football. All we did for the game was put my hand in the dirt and try and beat the other person in front of me more times than he beats me. And that's all it was every game. If I went out there and worried about seeing crowds, like we had at national championships and Super Bowls, every famous person is there. I've seen everyone, from the president, LeBron, Lil Wayne would come to LSU games. Like everyone is there. But I couldn't care. I couldn't hear a thing. I was so locked in and dialed. I could see the hairs on the center's hand when he's grabbing the ball, about to snap the ball. I was just so focused on what I had to do, because we're bought into this game is more than me. This is, I represent myself, but I also represent what's on the back, what's on the front of the jersey. And when we step on the field, when we get ready to go, it's, we represent the football team, and we got to do our job, and that's all it is. Best players play and do your job. It's an important skill to have, me how to stick to. It's not easy, but I think that's what separates great teams from, these hype teams that come out and win one year and drop off. When you look at the University of Alabama, that's the most constant high-performing team in the last 15 years. And that's the skill set I take. It's no different. Super Bowl, we play on the same grass, same painted field, same TV. The crowd noise is the same. You know what I mean? Like, it was probably louder at Alabama than it was at the Super Bowl.
Wow.
But it's what you focus on, it's what you buy into. I was just there to play football. I wasn't there to wave at everyone, or I wasn't there doing a halftime show. I wasn't doing none of that. Just had to play football. But I did nothing different. I had the same playlist whole college career, same playlist most of my career in the NFL. If I did anything different, I would counteract that by going straight back to what I know. If I was playing bad in the second quarter, go back to how I started the game.
Wow.
That's how you do it.
Your routine, even what you learned at Alabama from the routine of same seats, that is unbelievable. So
still with me now. It annoys the hell out of me because I got to do stuff all the way down to pre-workout and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Jesse, thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure. For everyone tuning in, I've got all of Jesse's links below. Remember, he's not always going to get back to you, but if you want to follow his journey,
I try.
See where the coaching stuff goes and how you can get involved in football in Australia, make sure you definitely follow his journey. And mate, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Appreciate it.